Hey everybody, it's Master Gallengeist here, bringing you my review for the season finale of The Mandalorian, Chapter 24, The Return. And I overall really enjoyed this episode, and I had seen kind of stuff on the internet. I tried to avoid as many spoilers or whatnot as possible, but I saw a blurb of it being like, hey, this kind of feels like a series finale, and it really kind of does. They tied up everything very well here. It almost was like, wow, this was really good. I even got my jacket out because of, like, yeah, because thinking about it, I'm like, this worked out very well for a lot of the characters involved. Got us a lot of plot details going on, got us a lot of character development moments, and got big changes and everything going along in the Star Wars universe. And I just wish that some of the other episodes had executed better in interweaving certain kind of plot points going forward to make this kind of more impactful. But I think that this ended on a stronger note than most of what was kind of going on this season, because you kind of get into it, and we were into this season, it's like, all right, what's going to happen with Grogu and Din and everything, and they kind of do their quest, and then it kind of tied in with Bo-Katan and everything going on with the Mandalorians and factoring more in with Mandalorians overall, which is okay. It's just the pacing and the execution and the interweaving needed a little bit of work, in my opinion. Not a lot of work. There's just things that they could have done to kind of make the stories kind of mesh a little bit better instead of like, why am I here? But it came out very well in this ending. Though, granted, there is one kind of small gripe that I have because it's just kind of like, how the fuck did this character get here? So, we see that Bo-Katan is pretty much trying to lead the rest of the Mandalorians away from the Beskar enhanced stormtrooper Imperial forces of Moff Gideon, and we know that Din is captured. We see her trying to like get them out and get them in just kind of like certain kind of places, and they eventually do get to a spot where they kind of like hold off the stormtroopers coming after them. We then cut over and we see Din pretty much tries to make his own kind of escape attempt, and again, the action scenes these last couple of episodes really have worked out to showcase that the Imperials do not understand how to fight people with Beskar armor, and that their Beskar armor helps them only a little bit until you see somebody fighting against them that knows how to go after the weaknesses, the Mandos. So we see Din with a nice kind of fight scene going on, kind of like John McClane kind of style. He's on the back foot. His hands are tied. He's able to get down one of them, but another one pretty much gets one of the wire wraps around him, and he's pretty much choking him out. But then Grogu pops up, and he's shouting, no, 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 and pretty much gets the stormtrooper into a position that then can take him out. And this was my only gripe. Grogu was pretty much with Bo-Katan and her forces. How the hell did he kind of like get away and get into the rest of the Imperial complex? I just needed that to be a little bit clear. I do love that Grogu went and saved his father. I loved that. And he's like going to Din, he's like spraying Bacta on him, and he's like, no, 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 I'm okay. He's like, listen, thank you, and I'm gonna need you to be brave. We're gonna have to go after Moff Gideon. We got to stop him. We have to stop him here. And then he pretty much gets in contact with Bo, and she needs, of course, a way out, and Din, of course, is like, listen, I'm gonna go after Moff Gideon. Do what you gotta do. And her and her forces pretty much fly up. They kind of like get out. The captain dude pretty much leads them to this place where they were actually growing food. And Bo-Katan's like, I didn't know that you could grow food on the surface outside of the domes. Like, yeah, we were able to do this, make farms and everything like that. And just showing that, like Jeff Goldblum in Jurassic Park, life will find a way. Like, even though there's like terrible, horrible conditions on here, there's still things that can like grow and give hope and everything like that. We can see it kind of revitalize uh, Bo-Katan. And then we get to another part that kind of like confuses me. Axe Wolves? Where are you? Well, Wolves somehow is able to get. He's just. Okay. Another thing that annoys me is like how the jetpacks have like fuel that works out. Now, granted, it could have been the difference between like the Children of the Watch and their kind of low tech aspects. So their jetpacks don't have as much fuel or aren't as fuel efficient. But Wolves gets he gets out of the fucking atmosphere. Now, granted, it's like, alright, I just need a little bit more. I know that they can be, like, atmosphere rated and everything, but he actually flies from the surface of Mandalore to the capital ship, gets everybody to pretty much do a ground action against them, and then pretty much takes control of the ship. Now, granted, you think, maybe he's a traitor, maybe he's a spy. No, he just sets it and starts fighting some of the TIE interceptors and everything. But it pretty much gets shot down, and then he's pretty much like guiding it down onto Mandalore. We'll get to that part eventually. So we see that the rest of the Mandalorians and the armor pretty much are taking their forces down. We see that Bo-Katan starts to hear that the armor, hey, we got your reinforcements, and they just start launching them, and they just start flying like ain't nobody's business, and we get one of the coolest action scenes of flying in formation Mandalorians fighting stormtroopers. Now, granted, I'm kind of going in a weird kind of way here, but I'm linking it up to what's going on. While this was going on, we see that Din has a cool little side mission with himself and R5 and Grogu. Grogu pretty much stays in the back as we see pretty much the force fields that Moff Gideon has to his place. He, of course, is pissed off at the rest of the Mando forces. He's like, fine, I'm going to go after these assholes, because he can see Din and Grogu on their kind of map. So he pretty much goes off base for a little bit. Well, and not actually leaving the base, but he goes off from the show for a little bit. So we then have the astromech come in, fly down, and pretty much use its powers to get into the system and start shutting off the things one by one as Din just starts going through those stormtrooper forces. And it's tough. All of the victories that we get here are earned, in my opinion, from what I've seen through this show. Like, Din does not have an easy time fighting these Beskar forces. Bo-Katan and the rest of the Mandos do not have an easy time going after these stormtroopers. This is like one where the victories that we get at the end are hard-earned, in my opinion, and it's really nice. That's why I go with the jacket, because it executed well. It showed that these characters know how to fight, and through their determination and their hard work and their skills and their friends, they are able to prevail over the Imperial forces. So we see Din just going through using different kind of tactics to take on, like, kicking some of these guys down into these stupid fucking holes that aesthetically you're like, that should be there because that'll kill somebody. Din used it to fucking kill somebody. And we see the astromech having to deal with, like, the Imperial mouse droids coming after it. It's like, fuck you, and flies off pretty much after we see Din going through and taking out the stormtroopers and then getting through to the next phase of Gideon's place. And we see that Gideon is not connected with Snoke. He has got clones of himself. So evidently he's trying to imbue himself with the Force. And we see Grogu looking around. It's like, what the hell? One of the clones' eyes wake up and Din's like, fuck this shit, and pretty much blows him up. And of course, he then goes out. We see him meet with Moff Gideon, and Moff Gideon's like, you fucks, you assholes. He was essentially trying to... He thinks of himself as almost perfect. He was trying to use Grogu to imbue himself with the Force through Pershing's cloning techniques and essentially create a super army. It's like, son of a bitch! But that fits a lot with the Imperial kind of stuff that they usually do throughout all of it. It's like, goddamn. Like, it doesn't, it's not that it's a bad thing. It's like, you fucking asshole, shit, this is going to be nasty. And he's like, fuck you. And then pretty much tries to, like, fight him and Grogu. And then we see that he's pretty much got power armor and kind of like a rebreather thing. I think it's a rebreather. We'll have to see how that kind of works out later on. And of course, this is where it kind of like syncs up with the battle with the Mandalorians and the Stormtroopers, which have other kind of great things. Bo-Katan utilizing the Darksaber very well. We see the other Mando chick that's usually the second in command with wolves doing some kick-ass shit. The armor just flying around with fucking tongs and hammers, beating wholesale ass like it ain't going out of style, and just like, alright. And it actually, like, the effects worked very well here, in my opinion, where you don't get really any kind of choppiness or anything that were happening in some other episodes. It's like, they took the time, they took the budget, and they did this shit. It's like, yeah. this is the one you wanted to do with. It looked great seeing essentially two ground air, like, how do I put it? It's like an air battle, but with ground force kind of tactics. It's an interesting mashup, and it works very well to showcase the fighting style of the Mandalorians with their jetpacks and all their different kind of gear and stuff. Wolves second in command was using their fucking knee blasters, kind of like that we saw in the Book of Boba Fett. It was fucking awesome, and I was like, yes, character through action. That's the shit I love. I love it when action is executed well. I mean, granted, I don't mind cool-ass shit either, but when you link that shit up, it's like, that's cool as fuck! Ah, shit, you're seeing how this character looks at situations and acts tactically and everything like that. Is awesome. Yeah. So, Din is pretty much fighting and not really having a good time against, Moff Gideon. And we see that the Praetorian Guard come out, and pretty much Grogu lures them back into pretty much the Shadow Council chamber, I believe, that Gideon was using. And you're like, oh shit, Grogu might die. And he's, of course, head off, and Din is trying his best to, like, go after Gideon, but he's got, like, more of a full-on Darth Vader, Dark Trooper kind of suit that can deal with heat and everything like that, and he's having a rough time with it, and of course, he would. He's been through a lot of different battles up to this point, and he's kind of reaching his limit, but the thing is, he needs to protect his son. And of course, we see Grogu then using the IG-12 kind of thing, but then he kind of gets out and starts like jumping around and everything and kind of fooling with the motherfuckers, even though they are a force to be reckoned with. I was afraid for Grogu during a lot of parts, and then of course we see that Bo-Katan kind of sees what's going on, goes down, kind of helps Din out, and be like, hey, go save your son, go save your kid. And he's like, thanks. And then he's able to get in there, and Grogu and Din team up to take on the Praetorians. And this is an important kind of thing, because a theme that we get throughout this episode is the Mandalorians are stronger together. Like, the reason Paz Vizsla was, Paz Vizsla? Yeah, it's Paz Vizsla. Yeah. The reason is that he was by himself, and like, even though he's a badass and he was able to take out the other ones, he was in a position that he needed help and he didn't have it. Here, Grogu needed help, and Din comes in and they utilize teamwork and everything. That pops up as well. Not saying that Paz was a bad guy for thinking he could do this on his own. He chose to stay back to protect the Mandos, to protect the Mandalorians and his friends and his family. And that's an important kind of aspect. I'm not saying that he's stupid for what he did. He went out as he wanted to, and how he was trying to help and protect his people. But we see throughout this that we see in action that the Mandos are stronger together. Their forces come on. The Children of the Watch, and those that decide to take off their helmets as well as those that were stuck on Mandalore trying to survive, taking out these stormtroopers together, and they are a force to be reckoned with. And then we see Bo trying to take on Gideon by herself, and not really having a good time against Gideon, and Gideon gets to the point and he destroys the Darksaber. He's like, you Mandalorians, you're nothing without your trinkets. And he's got a point, but the thing is, you have the trinkets and you don't know how to use them. It's like the use and all of that stuff, but it's like, it's a big thing to see the Darksaber destroyed. It's like, god damn. So this lines up with the point that Din and Grogu are having, they fight the Praetorian Guards, and Grogu almost gets severely injured, but uses the Force to save himself, and also to push back Praetorians at the right moment to get them into position so that Din can take them out, shoot them at the weak spots, and take them out. They take them all out, and then they come in, and we see that Bo-Katan's at kind of like her low point. She's thinking, I'm going to kind of lose again. But she's like, the thing is, Mandalorians, it's tough to fight us when we're together, as Din then comes in, and we see that completely in action. We see that Bo-Katan has learned from her experiences, and that, yes, as a leader, you have to try and lead your people in the best way possible, but it is alright to accept help, because this enemy needs to be taken down. And they just start fighting him, and Grogu helps as well, and it's like, alright, this is really cool seeing them all together, how their fighting tactics line up to start taking him on, and just beating his ass. And he's trying to use one of the Praetorian kind of things, and he's just not having a good time with it. And then this is when Wolves kind of pops in, and the Mandalorian cruiser is coming down, but instead of being like the sacrificial thing, he's able to like blast open a window and flies out. I'm like, good. If he doesn't need to die, don't have him die. But he's warned everybody, the Mandos are popping out, and the thing is, Bo-Katan, Din, and Grogu are not able to escape. And we see that Moff Gideon is like, oh, shit as well. And it blasts down, it hits, it crashes. Giant fireball kind of goes out. And we see that Moff Gideon's like, no! And of course we don't see a body, so we'll have to see what goes on later. But then we see that the fire's coming and Bo's trying to shield him, and then Grogu uses the Force to create a field that saves them all. And we see that he is exhausted after the end of that. And it's like, oh God, whew. And it's like, they won because they did it together. Yeah, people could say, oh, the power of friendship thing sucks ass. Yeah, but the thing is, it's true because these people understood their strengths and their weaknesses and beat wholesale ass like ain't nobody's business. They took on these forces that had supposed superior technology, supposedly superior smarts, and they fucking won. And that was because they knew their tactics, they knew their weaknesses, they knew their strengths, and they acted upon it and worked it out, even when they were on the back foot, because Din was captured. He was pretty much going through all these gauntlets. Grogu got into a position where he had to utilize the Force very extensively and was just poot at the end of it. And Bo-Katan lost the Darksaber, but yet gained Mandalore again. Like, yes, the Darksaber's a cool-ass thing, but she's got her people and her home back, and they can move forward and do things and, like, rebuild. And, of course, we see that Moff Gideon's like, ah! And then we don't see a body. But the thing is, Beskar might protect you against certain kind of shit. This is the kind of, like, Iron Man and armored kind of person kind of stuff. The armor might protect you from certain kind of shit. However, if that's a giant-ass fireball explosion thing going on, you might be cooked in it. So, either he survived, and he is pretty much Darth Vader-liked because he got cooked and shit, or one of his clones in another kind of facility is alive, and then we have to deal with his force-powered ass. There wasn't a thing at the end for a stinger of him like being like, I live, bitch! So, we'll have to kind of see. I know it's kind of weird that he's been the biggest kind of antagonist, but he has been an effective antagonist going forward, and I'm like, okay, I like that this was pretty much... I hope that this is the conclusion for him, because I like to have a kind of definitive kind of end with certain kind of instances, and this just works very thematically on what kind of worked out of, he was a jackass, he thought he could be bigger than his britches, and everything unraveled for him in the end, and then Bo-Katan learned all of these lessons of being a better leader by listening to her people, by trying to bridge these kind of gaps, and trying to be like, yo, stop being assholes, and then also working together to take down threats that you can't take on yourself. And it's just like, yeah, alright. So, then we get into the kind of denouement where we get the falling action and a lot of different kind of conclusions. We see that they reignite the Forge, the Great Forge of Mandalore, and everybody's like, yeah, fuck yeah, this is awesome and exciting kind of shit. And it's like, alright, can't wait to see how that kind of works out with them. Let's see here. Yeah. And then we see that the Mandalorians go forward. We see that Ragnar Vizsla gets reanointed. I don't know if the first part was him becoming an apprentice and then this him becoming a full-fledged Mandalorian, because they're at the Living Waters, he recites the creed, the armor puts the water on him, and then we're like, okay, cool, I'm sorry that your dad's dead. He went out like a boss. Which is no comfort, really. I mean, I would rather that he'd have his father. Yeah. And then we see another father and son thing go, and we see that Bo-Katan's watching them, and he wants to induct Grogu into the song, and of course the armor is like, he's too young to say the words, and then it's like, I want to formally adopt him, I want him to be my son. It's like, yay! It's like, fuck yeah, fuck yeah, fuck yeah. I mean, they've been acting like this before anyway, but it's always cool to have it kind of official, and he wants him to be an apprentice, and she's like, sure, alright, yeah. He is now woven into the song as Din Grogu, which is interesting to learn that Din is the family name like that, and Djarin is his kind of regular, his like first name. So it's like, oh, okay, Din Grogu, and he's like, all right, now you must take your apprentice and have journeys with him and teach him more about the Mandalorian way and all that. It's like, all right, and granted, I understand that they're kind of talking to the audience. I'm like, yeah, they can go off and do all their adventures still. They don't have to stay here on Mandalore to do all these different kind of things and like rebuild, get everything back to the way it was, trying to like fix the planet and help the people and everything like that. I can understand that it's kind of like on the nose with that, but it's kind of cool because you learn this. It's like, hey, it's a similar kind of thing to what the Jedi do with their Padawans, where they go and see and understand what goes on with the worlds and to learn and to grow. And it's like cool to see that with them. I'm like, yeah, all right. So we then see that they fly off and they actually go to the New Republic outpost base where they talk with Tiva. Let me see, Carson Tiva. Pretty much he brings himself back to the bounty hunter roots, but wants to work as a contractor with the New Republic. Tiva's like, it can't be anything official, but like we could work something out. I really like their kind of banter back and forth because Djarin has worked with the Republic and kind of helped them out and fought against a lot of Imperial forces and everything. And then we, of course, see Grogu snacking out there. And he's like, well, how about a little advance payment or whatnot? And because Grogu had seen one of the IG kind of heads there, he's like, just give me that. And it's kind of cool that he's going to be working with that. He gets back to Navarro. He gets his plot of land where he gets his house. They get their new marshal, and that the helmet is not the helmet. The head of IG, the IG robot, is used to get IG-11 back as the new marshal of Navarro. And it's really kind of cool to just see Din Djarin sit down and kind of relax as we then see Grogu practicing his use of the Force by force lifting a frog out of the water. And then it kind of ends focusing on Grogu, and we are out. And it's like, all right, really kind of cool character developments and choices, and nice conclusions that can lead to other and new kind of beginnings. Because it'll be interesting to see how Bo-Katan takes forth and rebuilds Mandalore. What happens with Din Djarin and Din Grogu as they have their adventures? Because we don't have them, well, of course, they weren't around when the planning of the sequel trilogy is going on, so there could be a lot of different stuff that they could be doing that could be in the background and then could come in to other Star Wars movies going forward. I mean, granted, we know that Rey is getting a movie set 15 years after The Rise of Skywalker, and that she's trying to rebuild the Jedi. Perfect kind of place to, like, put out Grogu. Though, granted, there was a little bit, good thing I remembered, that Grogu was at the Living Waters and was able to reach down and he can sense the mythosaur, and the mythosaur opened its eyes and kind of looked at him. So we'll have to see if potentially that's setting up for him to become the next Mandalore, that fusion of Jedi and Mandalorian and all that. So I am interested to see what kind of goes on with the mythosaur and what'll go on with Grogu and everything, because he could be linked with becoming a Jedi and being taught by Rey. And that would be really kind of cool. I'd really like to see what would go on with that. Because it's kind of far enough that Din could potentially be out of the picture, but that would be kind of sad. Though, granted, I think he would be old ass, but he'd still be kicking ass, man. It would be weird because I just love seeing Grogu still learning the ways of the Force, but yet still learning the ways of being a Mandalorian and being that son to Din Djarin. I mean, he went to save his father. He did an action on his own. He then was like, are you hurt? And tried to heal him with Bacta spray and all that kind of stuff, and trying to utilize the Force in ways. We really saw more of Grogu as a character in this season a lot, and it really worked and culminated here as well. And I can't wait to see what other stuff they do with these characters and stories going forward. Though, granted, I do love that this is a conclusion for now that is acceptable to me. It's like, all right, cool. We got all this stuff wrapped up. There's still kind of questions that we could get answers to and everything, but the season ended strong. And I liked it. and I can't wait to see what other kind of stuff pops up. I mean, Ahsoka's trailer looked fucking badass. I'll look into kind of the other ones as well. I didn't have much interest in Andor. Not that I didn't think that it was good or anything. I was just like, I'll have to kind of see how I feel about it. Because the Mandalorian, Din and Grogu, they just captured me. And I'm like, yay! And that's why I wear the jacket. They did a really good job with showcasing characters, themes, and doing growth and development and stories moving forward as well. It's like, all right, now kind of explore the stuff after Return of the Jedi and show me some stuff. Like, show me what Luke is doing and everything. Because I did not expect how well they did Luke Skywalker in the Book of Boba Fett. Now, granted, basing a whole series on him would be a hard kind of thing, and because of all the stuff that you would have to do. But when we saw Luke Skywalker in the end of Mandalorian Season 2 and what he was able to do in the Book of Boba Fett, I was like, that's Luke Skywalker. And the thing is, when you were doing the kind of stuff that they were doing in the sequel trilogy, you need to plan that stuff out better, and you need to kind of execute and show different kind of stuff better, because you have to have the audience buy Luke going into a hermitage and everything. Otherwise, it also comes across as like, okay, you're just kind of repeating what other Star Wars stuff did without kind of understanding how you kind of got there. Because we only knew that, like, Yoda had, like, sequestered himself, and he's, like, crazy as shit, knocking, like, he's like, I'm gonna swap, motherfucker, what do you want? I'm gonna smack your shit. And it's like, And then you see the stuff that happened in the prequel trilogy and everything, which, again, there's good stuff that's out of the prequel trilogy, but then there's also the execution and everything that kind of went along. It's like, oh, God. So I'm not trying to get in and shit on everybody's kind of parade. If there is stuff that you can like out of the prequel trilogy. It's like, okay, yeah. It's just like, needed work. And then it's like, same thing with the sequel trilogy. Oh, God, you kind of needed a lot more work, for my opinion. And because then you see people pulling stuff from the prequels of the Clone Wars. And you see that doing with Rebels and all the rest of the kind of animated stuff. And what they could kind of do and showcase and build to and take stuff from, like, the Legends and the expanded universe that they had and rework it into different kind of ways. So I really like how this ended, and to tie it up and to bring us to a point where we had good conclusions for Din and Grogu and Bo-Katan and Navarro and the New Republic, and we can see kind of where it goes off to and where it kind of leads to the stories that we've already encountered, where it can go off from there. So, yeah. Those are my opinions on the season finale. Tell me what you guys think in the comments below. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you agree with me, if you disagree with me. Also, like and subscribe, and I hope you have a good day.